Welcome, Year 9s, to your first lesson in your new unit on the Anglo Saxons and Normans. You will need throughout all of the lessons a copy of the unit textbook. I will attach the unit textbook to every single homework on Show My Homework or class work on Show My Homework. I will attach it to it. I would say that that would be more than sufficient. However, some people have said that, they have had problems reading some of the books and stuff. If you can afford possibly to purchase a copy of the textbook, then I would recommend you do so. If you can't, then let me know, email me, and we could perhaps maybe looking at getting one of the ones from school to you or something along those lines. Okay. But hopefully the electronic copy would be more than sufficient as you're working through this unit. So, start activity. If you open up the first couple of pages in the textbook, you'll see a lovely, great big timeline. Okay. Now, if you want to go away and get yourself an A3 piece of paper and maybe make a copy of this timeline or something along those lines, go for it. That would be an excellent task if that's the sort of thing you're after. Okay, you shouldn't need to. If you want to just take a photocopy of the timeline, that's always a good idea, or print a copy off and put it in your book. But it's a great, useful thing for you to refer to throughout this unit. The starter task for our first lesson is have a look at that timeline, okay, and answer this question here. What do you already know about the dates that are on the timeline? Think back to your Year 7 lessons. I'm just doing this unit with my Year 7s now, the Norman Conquest of England in 1066. If you want to challenge yourself, push yourself a little bit further, think then about, okay, some of the reasons why William won the Battle of Hastings. Yeah, what was it about the battle that he found particularly useful or successful? So pause here and answer these two questions. So today's lesson is going to be looking at the structure of Anglo-Saxon society. What was England like before William turned up? Yeah, one of the reasons why we study the Battle of Hastings and why we study William the Conqueror and all that kind of business is because of the massive amount of impact that his invasion had on us here in England. Okay, so today's lesson is going to be about what it was like before he turned up. Okay, what was society, social structure like, the role of the king before William, and ultimately, okay, what the relationship between the king and country was like. So look at the glossary again in your textbooks. Okay, are there any? Write down any particular. Make a note of any words that you're already familiar with. Okay. Don't worry about the dartboard and activity at this stage. Just have a look through the glossary and make of any notes and make a note of any terms you're already familiar with. So, key terms for this lesson. Please make a note of these key terms and their meanings in your books, yeah, or whatever it is you're working with. So we've got Anglo Saxon. So these were the people who were living in England before the Norman invasion. They weren't necessarily indigenous, okay? England has got a long history of being invaded, and the Anglo-Saxons actually didn't necessarily invade whole scale, but they drifted into this country following the power vacuum left by the Romans as they left. We've got this term aristocracy. These are ruling people, ruling classes. They are important people, kings and queens and barons and people like that. Yeah, so they're the upper classes in a medieval or pre-medieval country. We've got this term hide. Okay, a hide is about 120 acres, or basically enough land, okay, for a family to live on, roughly, approximately, yeah, okay. And then the government is an organisation which rules a country. Hopefully you're familiar with this. So, what was it like for ordinary people living in Anglo Saxon England? So, write down these sentences. You've got gap fill, you've got these words. So, copy the sentences out and add in these particular points into the gaps as you go. Okay, pause here and complete this activity. The next task then. So, attached to the Show My Homework lesson are a couple of different supporting documents which can help you accomplish this. So, you've got the 5 main Anglo-Saxon kingdoms. I wouldn't say you needed to draw out the British Isles. If you print off one of the maps that's attached to here and colour it in and label it and stick it in your book, that is more than sufficient. Again, pause here to accomplish this task. Okay, so again, print this off, this table off, or copy this table in your books. Okay, we are going to be going through a number of different slides. Okay, and you need to add information into this table taken from the slides that we're looking at. Also, print these off and glue them in your books, okay, or copy them into your books. It's up to you how you go about doing this. Write a brief summary next to each one of the cards. So you'll probably want to leave a gap in between each of the cards, okay? And you need to answer this question. How was each one of the groups important to the government of England? So group number 1 is the local lords. So these were the thanes. There are about 4,000 to 5,000 thanes by 1060. Thane was an important man in the community, holding more land than a peasant and living in a manor house with a tower and a separate church. Thanes were an important part of the aristocracy. They were the warrior class. They were the people that did the fighting. So you've also got slaves. They could be bought and sold. If they committed crimes, they were not often punished as harshly as other people because it might damage their ability to work. So, interesting point to note, when the Normans came, they thought that the idea of owning slaves were barbaric, okay? But when you compare the fact, when we find out later on that in fact actually under Norman rule, pretty much everyone was a peasant, and a peasant were more or less a slave anyway. It didn't make much different. Another is earls, and then we've also got peasant farmers. So when you glue these in your books and leave a gap between each one, make sure you put them in, you think, in order of importance as well, as descending with the most important at the top. So earls, the most important after the king. Okay, the relationship was based on loyalty between the two. Earls competed against one another for the king's favour, and ultimately earls challenged the king to increase their own power, but only if they could be sure it would happen successfully. The majority of Anglo-Saxons were peasant farmers who rented small farms. They rented it from ultimately these people here, yeah? Okay, that's well worth remembering. What was England like before 1066? England was ruled by a king. He was dependent upon the help from his lords and the earls. Taxes were paid to the crown, and people were expected to be loyal to the king. There are about 1.5 million people in England, living in mostly small villages, okay, and there are only about 15 towns. England was very rich because of the rubbish weather we have, okay. So the snow, the rain, all means that there is good farming land, yeah, okay. In order for plants to grow, plants need rain and sun. Believe it or not, we do get some sun. In order for animals to grow, they need to eat plants. So we had an abundance of greenery, an abundance of animals, okay. We are also, as a country, quite lucky in that we've also got a lot of natural mineral resources as well, okay, notably things like tin, okay, and silver, okay. Although there was a lot of poor people, most lives were farming lives, okay, and were reasonably good. If you were a peasant and you had more than 5 hides of land, okay, then you had to pay tax. You could become a thane. Merchants owned ships could also become thanes. Slaves could be set free, and free peasants could sell themselves into slavery. Hell, if you were a thane, okay, you could become an earl, or a thane, if they committed serious crimes, could end up becoming a slave. So it's quite important that you understand that the hierarchy, the social hierarchy of Anglo-Saxon England wasn't rigid. It wasn't a rigid, it was like a ladder. You could actually go up and down it. So once you have listened to this, pause here, make a copy of these in your books, or print them off and copy them into your books, glue them in, however you want to do. Next to each card, write a brief summary about the positives and the negatives of each of the various stations. So, next task then, referring back to the previous 2 slides, I would like you to have a go at completing each of these 6 sentences, okay. Yeah, so at the end of each sentences, you'll note there is blank, okay. I'd like you just to spend 5 to 10 minutes, okay, pause here if you need to, and complete each of these sentences. Once you have completed that, we've got a 4-mark practice examination question. Remember, a mark a minute. This shouldn't take you more than 4 minutes to do, okay. There are even here some sentence starters to help you to complete this. Each one of these is only going to be, okay, 2 marks each. That's basically 4 sentences. 4 minutes, 4 sentences, 2 sentences per feature. Have a go at describing 2 features of the social system of Anglo-Saxon England. Once you've done that, give your piece of work, okay, to a friend, to a family member, yeah, to anybody hanging around nearby, or maybe you could set up a Zoom with a friend or a partner over the internet and swap work, okay. Peer assess your work, give yourself a grade, okay, out of 4, 2 marks per actual, per response, and essentially use this mark scheme here to help you accomplish that. And as we can see here, all right, this is essentially taken from the examination book, all right, or I should say this, and there are even here some exam tips, all right, so use these to actually complete the previous exercise. There are even, look, all right, there are even some examples here, right? Don't use these examples, use your own examples. This isn't your homework. I'd like you to do this now. In fact, actually, do you know what? Thinking about it, you should have already got a hierarchy because one of the slides was actually organized people into the correct order. So yeah, don't worry about this task. Okay, you kind of have done it already, so that's good. You can skip this one. All right, now progress check. Think about the kind of progress that you have made in today's lesson. Okay. All right, think about your grade that you are looking for. What kind of a grade you are looking for, okay, next summer. Yeah, fingers crossed, hopefully. Yeah, or not next summer, the summer after. We will have exams by then, all right? So, yeah, this should give you an idea of what you're aiming for. Yeah, you should be able to accomplish these things if you're looking for these particular levels. Okay, so we've got here some resources at the end of this PowerPoint. Okay, this PowerPoint's finished now, but over the next few slides, there are some resources that can help you accomplish the various tasks. Yeah, you could use this to print this out. There's a bigger version. Here are these, okay, as well. You could print one of these off to help you with the tasks. Right, so we have also here, these are the slides you will need to complete the table. Yeah, so the table that was aforementioned earlier, so you'll need these slides to actually accomplish this. And we're done. Okay, thank you very much, ladies and gents. Okay, and go away now and get on with work. Thank you very much.